I've just come back from a beautiful walk in the woods, and as I was walking, I kept thinking about a question that I was asked last week. You see, I was working in the Nanaimo School District, and on the second day of our work, we were spending the day focusing on the new book, Speaking Our Truth, A Journey of Reconciliation. We had talked in the morning about our history, the impact, what is reconciliation, what are our roles in reconciliation, what are our roles in ensuring the truth continues to be told. And then in the afternoon, the woman who wrote the teacher's guide for Speaking Our Truth, her name is Tasha Henry, she did some beautiful activities with all the educators that were in the room and the classroom librarians. Also in the room was education support staff, administration, and a trustee. And what she did near the end was she simply opened the space for questions. And not all those questions had to be answered. It was simply, let's open the floor. And one of the questions that near the end of that time that was asked that had me thinking on my walk, and has actually had me thinking many times since Wednesday, is how do we make sure the invisible ones get seen? And in many ways, for me, that is what reconciliation is about. I think, as Canadians, we've moved very fast to this concept of what reconciliation is because we're nice. And it means there's potential for healing. But we must remember the truth, that this is actually a journey of truth and reconciliation. And that truth is part of making sure the invisible ones get seen. That for generations and generations, this history has not been told. It has been invisible. And not only the legacies of residential schools, but the legislation that has occurred in this country, if we go all the way back to the Royal Proclamation in 1763, all the way through to UNDRIP, United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People. Through there has been legislation that has dramatically impacted the health and wellness of Indigenous people, specifically our relationships with ourselves, having that ability to love myself, with our families, with our communities, with our nations, with the land, with the water, with the stars, with our language, with our culture, with our ceremonies, with the animals. I could go on and on and on the impact of the relationships. However, one of the pieces that's important to remember in that is our strength and our resilience, that we are incredibly resilient people. And so when I think about reconciliation, in my mind, and my definition changes often, and sometimes I'm quite a cynic about reconciliation. Is it even possible? I don't actually know that answer. I don't know if in my generation we will see reconciliation or not in this country. What I mean by that is equal relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, and Indigenous nations, and this nation that we know of as Canada. But if every day we can make space, or I can make space, for people who might consider themselves invisible, for their voices, their thoughts, their wisdom, their ideas, to show up, then for me that's part of reconciliation. And I know I get asked a lot by individuals who identify as allies or who want to be allies, ask me, what can I do? And I think that's the challenge with that question, is not about what can I do, it's about how can I be. And so when you're in a gathering, don't answer first, just be. Let the space be. Be open to learning, be a witness, be kind, be reciprocal in relationships. Simply be. So to that wise woman, who I don't have her permission yet to use her name on this video or else I would identify her, but to that wise woman, thank you for the very important question of how do we make sure the invisible ones get seen?